Hardy information. Well, I am Pastor E again from Michigan, and I'll be talking about um, finding advantage in adversity from the standpoint of redefining yourself. And, I always like to make sense out of things. So, to redefine yourself, you first have to have had a definition of who you are. There's no way to redefine what you've not defined, because means you're redoing. You're doing over again. You cannot redefine what you've not defined or established, your identity. And it requires knowing who you are first. And sometimes we redefine because the original context has lost its value, its position, and requires, like Pastor Va talked about, realignment, evaluation, reframing, or revamping even. And the process of redefining is necessary because change is inevitable. When we think about it, we didn't anticipate the pandemic, then it hit. And so everything that we thought was defined as our daily routine, our norm, like for me, I'm a worker, I'm a mom, I come home, I cook dinner, I feed my kids, and then I help with homework, I go to bed. That was my structure. I defined my life on those parameters. And then suddenly, a pandemic hits, and I now have to redefine myself to become a coach, a mentor, a teacher, an educator, and sometimes resolving more conflict than I anticipated for. You think about it, for those of us who've seen a car with a manual transmission, if you're driving on an upward incline, say going up a hill, you have to use a gear 2. When you're driving going downhill, of course, you're not going to use the same gear. And when you're cruising on the freeway, you're not going to use the same gear. There is a need to shift, to change gears, to change our approach when adversity hits. Because if we're going to turn adversity into advantage, we have to not only think smart and think on our feet, we have to revamp ourselves and quickly switch so we can become better. The Bible says in Isaiah 61 verse 3, He, God, gives beauty for ashes, strength for fear, gladness for mourning, peace for despair. You see, for every adversity, He, God, gives an advantage. Strength for fear, beauty for ashes, gladness for mourning. So there is a switch here. There's a replacement. Where there's an adversity, there's an opportunity for an advantage. And some of the things to think about is, if we're going to redefine ourselves, first we have to know who we are. Who am I? And then, why am I here? What is my purpose? Simon Sinek, one of the great minds that I listen to, he says, you have to know your why. If you don't define your why, then you exist. You just live life, que sera, sera, what will be, will be. You're not intentional and you don't live it on purpose. And then the next question is, where am I headed? You have to know where you're going, because if you don't know where you're going, it's like if you're driving, you want to leave Michigan to Chicago, but you don't know where you're going, you don't have a GPS, you might end up in Cleveland, Ohio, thinking you're going to Chicago. We have to know where we're going. The ability to reinvent and redefine ourselves requires courage. It doesn't come easy. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant. It requires a squeeze. To mold something into a shape that we like, there has to be a squeeze and a reshaping. It's challenging. It's purposeful. Why? Because adversity destabilizes not only our physical structure, but our mental and even sometimes our spiritual empire. Think about it from a spiritual context. What we knew as church, conventional church, is no longer conventional church. For most of us, it's online, virtual. There is a switch. Even though the pandemic was an adversity, the advantage is you and I find out that we are the church. It's not in a house. It's not in a building. We are the church. Another thing is, we used to think, oh, I have to find someone to love me. You find out, I am love. You remember we talked about our I am statements? Adversity comes, and then you remember to tell yourself, I am love. If no one is here to hug me, I am enough. I am love. I am loving, and I can love me and hug me. See, beloved, the one constant in life, adversity or not, the one constant in life is change. It is inevitable. It cannot be avoided. And if we don't change, we will get stuck because adversity can be overwhelming. It can be stressful. It can cause us to feel like, boom, I'm here, I cannot move. It causes us to feel confused. Confusion kicks in because what we knew to be certain suddenly becomes uncertainty. And so it's like, oh, I'm stuck. What am I doing? Everything is crashing down. And guess what? We feel stuck. And then our anxiety magnifies. Our fear magnifies. Our guilt of not putting tools in place to overcome magnifies. We have shame. We have apathy. Suddenly we have a mental breakdown. But the key is, if we remember that redefining ourselves can turn adversity into advantage when adversity hits, rather than sit in our fear, in our anxiety, and make ourselves panic till we have a mental breakdown, we start to think, what do I need to do? How can I turn this adversity into advantage? And I'm glad you asked me why, even though you didn't, because I'll tell you how. Some of the things I found out. Number one, focus on the good. What we pay attention to grows in value, negative or positive. It's about what we want. What do we want? If I pay attention to the negative, it grows. If I pay attention to the positive, it grows. You see, the Bible says in Philippians 4:8, finally, meaning in finality, when everything hits, when everything has crumbled, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, if there is any praise, think on these things. When adversity hits, if we allow ourselves to start thinking defeat, like Pastor Val said, we end up becoming a victim. Switch the gear on adversity. Beat it to its own game. Think positive. Not only think positive, act positive. Not only act positive, be positive. Have a positive outlook and a positive attitude. You know, the law of attraction says what we put out, we attract. We might say, oh, I don't want this chaos. Stop putting out, I don't want this chaos. Start putting out, I am strong, I am more than a conqueror. And suddenly you will attract that energy. Number two, change your appetite and change your diet. And I'm not just talking physical appetite and diet, y'all. Yes, we change what we eat because let me tell you, it is said that those who are strong, who are healthy, will beat coronavirus. If you are mentally and spiritually healthy, you can beat adversity when it comes. So what are we consuming as far as social media? What is going in through our ear gate? What is going in through our eye gate? What are we looking at? What are we meditating on? What are we thinking on? The Bible, we just read about, from Philippians, or I just recited from Philippians. Think on those things that are good, positive, of good report. If we don't change our appetite, if you're craving trouble, craving negativity, craving cursing your neighbor, cursing your coworkers, start craving positivity, crave love, crave peace, crave joy, because our diet, our spiritual, mental, and physical diet is very relevant and matters greatly in the midst of adversity. You see, from a spiritual perspective, filling our minds with positive affirmations. We talked about the power of your I am statements. Filling our minds with positive affirmations about ourselves only helps us to modify negative behavior. The next is clear out emotional clutter. I love this for me particularly. Physical clutter is easy to recognize, identify, and clear out. If you walk into your kitchen sink, it's loaded with dishes. The kids ate, your husband ate, your family ate, they left a bunch of dishes. Or, like Reggie said, he has a bunch of pillows in his living room. You can see the clutter. But when it comes to mental or spiritual clutter, sometimes it's not visible to the eye. We have to perceive it in our spirit and perceive it in our minds. And the best way to me to perceive mental clutter and spiritual clutter is my behavior, my actions, my thoughts. If my thoughts, my behaviors, my action start to deviate from my core values, my value is love, My value is joy. My value is honor. When my actions, my thoughts, my behavior starts to deviate from my core value, something is wrong. Then I'm asking myself, why am I feeling this way? It's very important to ask ourselves questions. Why am I feeling this way? Is there anything that I need to change? Why am I even thinking this way? You know, the Bible says we should capture our thoughts, pull down imaginations. And sometimes the way to capture our thoughts and pull down imaginations is to ask yourself questions. Wait a minute. How did I just think that? What happened? How can I reverse what I'm thinking? Because when you start asking yourself questions, when you're mindful of your actions, your thoughts, your behavior, it helps you to become aware of yourself. And when there is spiritual and mental clutter, you're able to catch it, you're able to fix it. The next thing is reinvent yourself. The new normal will be a different normal from the old normal we were used to. So we better reinvent ourselves. I say this, you cannot resolve issues with the same energy that it took to create those issues. World problems, pandemic, killing of people of color, whatever it is, even in your own home, small issues, you cannot resolve your issues with the same energy it took to create those issues. It's not gonna work. We have to be open to new ideas, new ways of thinking, new ways of living, new ways of being. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. He didn't say, try to create the change you want to see. Be, meaning a state of existentialism. Become, work on it. You know, it might mean, taking small steps, writing, spending time with loved ones, doing little things to reinvent yourself. But we need to reinvent ourselves. For me, one of the things I did was I learned how to ride a bike. I reinvented myself. I said I'm going to remember my youth by learning how to ride a bike, which I didn't know how. I fell a couple of times, but thank God I am riding and I am becoming better. I'm reinventing myself because, hey, life has changed. I have to find new ways of doing it. And that's just a simple example. But even in our career path, Pastor Val talked about going back to school. And then lastly, create a plan, a vision for your life. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision. Make it plain that those that read it on clay tablets may run with it. The first thing, write it. Clarity does not come until we establish a vision. You might say, I don't know what my vision is. I don't know where I'm going. Start writing something. What do you like? Who are you? Where are you going? Start writing. When you start writing, it'll become plain. It'll become clear. And then you will start to make sense out of it. Sometimes when we're writing it down, it's not making sense. But the more we write it, the better it gets. And I tell you what, I'm going to add this. Start to feel the emotions of what it is that you say. For example, let me cut out what I'm saying and bring out an example. Say, for example, I tell myself I am going to be wealthy. I'm sorry, y'all. I believe it, and I'm going to believe it till I die. Because there are so many problems in this world that I need money to take care of. My why is to take care of people, to live a quality life, and to give my kids the quality of life that they deserve. That's my why of being empowered and being wealthy. Now, when I write my vision, part of it is wealth. I still have not figured out how to attain that wealth. But sometimes I sit in my thoughts. I feel what it means to be wealthy. I feel what it means to live my dream life. I feel what it means to be able to feed thousands and give to the poor. When you start to feel that emotion, the law of attraction sets in motion and you begin to attract those things in small ways and big ways. And before you know it, it comes to you. Because you see, it's not always smooth. We fall, we get back up again, and then we fall again. And remember this. If we do these things, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 2:9, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of men and women the things God has in store for you and I. We can only attain it if we choose to redefine and turn adversity into advantage. Thank you very much. God bless you. And so we're going to go to our segment of questions.